I'm Doug Kalajian from the ArmenianKitchen.com, and today we're making shish kebab, at least what you probably call shish kebab. Armenians call it khorovats, which means any grilled or roasted meat. In Armenia today, it's most likely pork, which is abundant and less expensive than lamb. But lamb is the traditional meat for shish kebab, and it's the meat that we use. I want to talk just a little bit about the meat. If you go to your supermarket and you see those little packages of beef and they say, all ready for kebab, don't use it. You might as well grill your beef sandals. It's going to be unchewable. If you have to use beef, pick a nicely marbled cut. Of course, if you can get filet mignon, that's terrific. But the key is going to be, no matter what meat you use, properly seasoning and marinating it to make it taste like real shish kebab. I cut this lamb myself. I want to show you just a little bit of it. It is nice and lean and fresh. If you don't like lamb, you're probably using bad lamb. Here is how you know if it's good lamb. You smell it, and you shouldn't be able to smell a thing. If your lamb smells, it's not good. Take it back, get your money back. Everybody has a different recipe for shish kebab. Not only does every ethnic group have its own recipe, every Armenian house has its own recipe, and that's okay. But the one thing that distinguishes Armenian shish kebab from anybody else's is we love onions. We put onions in everything. If you have nothing else, put onions in your shish kebab, it'll taste great. This is how we make it. I use onions and garlic, parsley, which is also very Armenian, and I like to chop a tomato in. By the way, if you get a shish kebab recipe that goes on for 2 or 3 pages, throw it away. There's no need to overcomplicate this. Just toss these ingredients with the meat, and then add your seasonings. We like to use coriander because that's what our families used. Other Armenians don't use coriander. Some use cumin, some use allspice, some use, well, all three. Whatever you like is good for you. But I'm using just freshly ground coriander mixed with some red pepper from Aleppo, which is terrific stuff. Now, you'll notice I didn't put any salt in there. Don't. Salt will just draw moisture out of the meat, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do. Now, most important, we usually use some sort of wine. I like to use a red wine. I also sometimes use a sweet red wine. Lamb stands up very well to a sweet wine. But today we're going to use a particular Armenian favorite, pomegranate juice. There is nothing more Armenian than pomegranates, and pomegranate juice works wonderfully with lamb. It will really give this a wonderful flavor without making it overly sweet. It's really going to enhance the flavor of the lamb itself. I'm going to wait until the meat is on the skewers, until just before I grill it, before I brush on a little bit of olive oil to keep it from drying out when it's roasting, and then just a sprinkling of sea salt. You don't have to let the meat marinate overnight, but I like to. I think it really enhances the flavor and really tenderizes the meat. But if you do, mix it once or twice in that time. Every few hours, every 5 or 6 hours. Give it a toss. Do it at night before you go to bed. Do it again in the morning. And then it will be perfect by the time you put it on the grill. Through the magic of video, it is now 24 hours later, and I wanted you to get a look at this marinated meat. I really wish you could smell it. It is truly intoxicating. Now, as I begin to put the meat on the skewers, just a couple of important points. There's wonderful onions and tomatoes in here that I'm not going to throw away, but you really can't serve them raw unless you don't like your guests. So either cook them up in a pan on the stove, or I like to wrap them in aluminum foil and just leave them in a corner of the grill. Okay, the fire's hot. I just put the meat on. Don't forget to keep turning it so that it doesn't burn. In an Armenian home, making the shish kebab is always Dad's job, and not just because it's made on the grill. Originally, this was a soldier's meal. In ancient times, an army on the move could just liberate a few sheep, slaughter them with their swords, and cook them on those same swords over the campfire. The question is, whose army came up with this idea? A Greek will tell you it was Alexander's army. A Persian will tell you it was Darius. I happen to be positive that it was King Dikran the Great of Armenia. You want to argue with me? Okay, but wait till after dinner. Here it is, the completed shish kebab, or khorovats as you like. Come to the ArmenianKitchen.com for this recipe and many more.